1 p.m. I'd ask all the members to keep your microphones muted until you're ready to speak, and please announce your names when speaking. At this time, if I could get Mr. Ortiz to give us a roll call and certification of quorum.
Okay, thank you, sir. I will also, if I could remind all of the board members to please keep your video on during the duration of the meeting. This is just so that way we can make sure that we have a quorum during the entire meeting. Thank you. Okay, it's Marcus Lundergreen,
Present.
Mark Henderson,
Present.
there we go. Troy Webb,
Present.
Christopher Bass,
Present.
Lydell Toy,
Present.
Kim Allen,
Present.
Stacy Mighty, and Presiding Officer Mark Matheny.
Present.
Okay, sir, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Alex. At this point, we'll move to agenda item C, the open government, and I'll turn this over to Stephen Leary.
Good morning. I'm Stephen
Good
Leary,
morning.
Assistant General Counsel. You able to hear me? Okay, very good. I'll begin our open government training. It's good to meet you all. I am new to the electricians program. I took it over from Laura Pepperly. And I've been on for a few months. Go ahead and share up the slides and have a brief presentation. If you have any questions anytime, feel free to jump in or you can ask your questions at the end. All right, I just want to confirm, are you able to see the slides up on the screen? Okay, very good. So there are three statutes we're going to be talking about today that fall under the umbrella of open government and affect the advisory board's operations. They're statutes you should be aware of. The Open Meetings Act, which is in Chapter 551 of the Government Code. The Administrative Procedure Act, which is in Chapter 2001 of the Government Code. And the Public Information Act, which is also referred to as the Open Records Act, is in Chapter 552 of the Government Code. Let's start with the Open Meetings Act. The purpose of the Open Meetings Act is the same purpose as all three of these acts. It's to ensure open and transparent government. The Open Meetings Act requires that most governmental bodies have to meet in public. And there has to be public notice ahead of time of the time, place, and subject matter of the meeting. There are a few exceptions to the Open Meeting Act for things that can be meetings that can take place in a closed session, but by and large, everything has to be publicly noticed and the meeting has to occur open to the public. The provisions of the act are mandatory and are to be liberally construed in favor of open government. The key concept of the Open Meetings Act is a quorum. By law, a quorum is the majority of the members of the advisory board or committee as fixed by statute or rule. In order for a board to take official action or to conduct deliberations, quorum has to exist. Now, if you get into an advisory board meeting and there isn't a quorum there, you can still meet, but you can't take an official action. So that does happen sometimes, that something happens and we lose a quorum. Maybe some of you fall off this call. Maybe something happens and there's just not enough people. Well, we couldn't take an official action. You couldn't vote on things, but you could still meet and hear public comment. But in order to take official action, there must be a quorum. Another key concept is a deliberation. What constitutes a deliberation under the Open Meetings Act is fairly broad, and the courts have construed it broadly. It means any verbal or written exchange among a quorum of members of the government body concerning an issue that's within the jurisdiction of the governmental body. And another key concept is what constitutes a meeting. The key concept here is that what constitutes a meeting is also construed broadly. So you could improperly meet without having a formal meeting. A meeting occurs anytime there's a quorum of a governmental body and you engage in deliberation over something that's within the jurisdiction of the governmental body. The notice requirements of the Open Meetings Act require that there's advance notice of the time, place, and subject of each meeting that's held. We provide this in the form of an agenda. The agenda is posted with the Secretary of State on their website, and we also post it 7 days ahead of time on the TDLR website. It's important that the Board or committee cannot engage in discussions about a subject that's not included on the agenda. So it's important that during the meeting we confine ourselves to topics that are on the agenda. And if additional topics come up, we can consider them in a future meeting. Keeping in mind that a meeting occurs whenever a quorum of a government body engages in a discussion about an issue that's within the jurisdiction of the government body, can the members ever meet in an informal setting without violating the Open Meetings Act? So yes, you can meet informally in a convention or other types of social functions and workshops. However, you will violate the Open Meetings Act if a quorum of you engage in a discussion or make decisions about committee business or board business or take formal action, and you do it outside of the posted open meeting. So you can go to these conferences, but don't talk about official business with a quorum or among a quorum of you. Some key points to remember. Always be aware of any situation occurring outside of a properly noticed meeting in which a quorum of members is present or engaged in discussion. Do not engage in substantive discussions related to board or committee business or policy when a quorum is involved and you're outside of an officially noticed and scheduled meeting. And lastly, beware of the walking quorum. And we'll get into what a walking quorum is next. So the concept of a walking quorum is you begin your discussion with fewer than a quorum of members about a topic that's within the board's jurisdiction. So this could happen in a work group. We use work groups that contain fewer than a quorum of members so we can talk about rulemakings and other projects without violating the Open Meetings Act. So you can start out with your work group. You can start out just talking to 1 or 2 members. But later on, if other members are brought into the conversation, and this can occur through email, through phone calls, or so forth, ultimately you can have an amount of members that amounts to a quorum that have engaged in this discussion about something that you're doing so outside of an officially noticed public meeting, and that's the concept of a walking quorum. So the example we give, if you had a 5-member advisory board and 2 members engaged in phone calls and emails expressing thoughts on an upcoming rule change and exchange research that they have each individually performed regarding the issue, and then one of the members subsequently forwards that exchange to another member. Now you had 3 members who have engaged in that discussion. The 3 members would have constituted a quorum of that 5-member body, and that would violate the Open Meetings Act by constituting a walking quorum. Walking quorums can occur during conference calls, video conferences, hallway discussions, emails, text messages, and other newer technologies. So the best practices to avoid a walking quorum. To avoid a walking quorum, the members should not meet in small groups, discuss board or committee business, and then communicate those discussions to other members. So the way that we do this at TDLR, the advisory boards will often break up into work groups that constitute less than a quorum, fewer than a quorum of members. And a lot of times in a big advisory board meeting like this, the presiding officer will appoint work group members, will assign tasks to a work group. The conversation then has to stay within that work group until you get into the next advisory board meeting. And then you can have a work group report. The members can report back to the larger board in the open meeting. So if you're going to break into work groups to talk about things, that's fine. but you can't forward that conversation or bring other members into that conversation outside of an officially noticed open meeting. So don't do that. That can be, you could violate that by email or text message, social media, and so forth. Another way you could violate the Open Meetings Act is by polling members. Now, the Open Meetings Act generally requires all voting to take place in the open session. Generally, you can't vote behind closed doors. And polling members would be if you were to contact other board members to figure out how they would vote on a particular item or seek their approval on an item. That could violate walking quorum if you were talking about the matter. But it could also violate the polling prohibition by taking an informal vote outside of the open meeting. So you can't do that. All the voting has to take place in the open meeting. Guidelines for open sessions. Again, you want to confine your discussion to what's on the agenda. Now, during the public comment portion of the meeting, keep in mind that if we invite the public to come talk to a board meeting, they're not subject to the Open Meetings Act. They don't have to just talk about what's on the agenda. But if you're going to respond to their comments, and your response to their comments would take you outside of what's on the agenda, that can be a problem. So generally, we advise that during the public comment portion, you just receive the comment. Don't discuss anything that they bring up that's not on the agenda. And if it is a topic that you want to consider on a future agenda, just add it to an agenda for a later meeting. And this is just a wrap up to confine your discussions during the meeting to what's on the agenda. Be careful not to allow discussions during the meeting to drift off the agenda. That happens sometimes. If that does happen and I notice it, I will interrupt and let you know, hey, I think you're off of the agenda. I'm doing that to prevent you from violating the Open Meetings Act. So every once in a while that will occur. Don't respond to issues that are raised during public comment if the item's not on the agenda. If the topic that the commenter wants to talk about is not on the agenda, then you don't want to respond to it. Now, if it is on the agenda, you can respond to it. And you want to specifically identify items for future agendas and communicate those items to TDLR staff. So when we're between board meetings, there's things that'll come up that you want to talk about in the upcoming board meeting. Let us know. Let Alex know you have a topic that you want on the agenda. That way we can be sure to put it on the agenda with plenty of time that we can talk about it. Every once in a while this will happen that, someone wants to talk, one of the board members wants to talk about something that we just didn't have time to put on the agenda. So be sure to let us know that you want something on the agenda. Now, what happens if you violate the Open Meetings Act? There's a number of bad things that can happen. One of them is it can be a ground to invalidate the action that the government body took. So if you were to vote on something with less than a quorum, votes that you took, rules that you approved, so forth, those actions could be held void by a court. A court could invalidate that action. There's also criminal penalties for violating the Open Meetings Act. Members who knowingly participate in a walking quorum or knowingly participate in a meeting that is closed to the public are subject to misdemeanor criminal penalties. That could be a fine of up to $500, confinement in the county jail for up to 6 months, or both. It's rare that there's criminal prosecutions for Open Meetings Act, but it has occurred and it could occur. So it's something to be aware of. And that wraps up the open meetings section of this. These are some resources having to do with open meetings. If you have any questions about whether the Open Meetings Act, let me know. And as the Assistant General Counsel assigned to this program, I'll get you an answer if you have any questions about that. Briefly go over Administrative Procedure Act, the APA. The Administrative Procedure Act establishes minimum procedures for uniform practice and procedure at state agencies and provides opportunities for public participation and transparency in our rulemaking process. There are multiple parts of the APA. So for today, for our purposes, we're mostly concerned with the rulemaking parts of the APA. The APA also touches on contested cases and how we conduct hearings having to do with contested cases. One key concept having to do with rulemaking is what actually constitutes a rule such that it would require us to go through the official rulemaking process to promulgate it. A rule is a statement of general applicability made by a state agency that implements, interprets, or prescribes law or policy, or describes the procedure or practice requirements of a state agency. Now, a rule excludes a statement only regarding the internal management or organization of a state agency and not affecting private rights or procedures. The concept of what is a rule includes a new rule, an amendment to an existing rule, and the repeal of an existing rule. So we get into this a little bit when we develop forms or we put procedures on our website, put information on our website. There are certain things that we can do that way that don't require rulemaking. But anything that's prescribing law or policy or is affecting the private rights of individuals, absolutely that has to go through the official rulemaking process, which is a formalized process. And we'll get into the little nuts and bolts of it in a moment. So just keep that in mind. Not everything is a rule, but if it's officially going to be a rule under the APA, if it's these criteria, then there's a rulemaking process to go through. The ideas for rules, things that will wind up in a rulemaking, they can come from many different sources. Sometimes it's legislative changes. A bill, will change the statute and it will require rules to implement it. Sometimes the bill will actually say that we must adopt rules. So more often it's saying that we may adopt rules, or it's providing it's permissive in that it's allowing us to adopt rules. We carefully analyze all the bills that happen during session, and that's a major source of our rulemaking. Advisory boards like you come up with ideas, things that we should change in the existing rules, and ideas for new rules, and rules that don't work anymore that we should repeal. A lot of that comes from you. TLR staff also comes up with ideas for rulemaking. There's also a 4-year rule review process, which we'll briefly go into, that every agency is required every 4 years to review its existing rules to determine whether or not there's still a reason to keep those rules. And there's ideas that come up through that 4-year rule review process. There's also something called a rule petition, which allows an interested person to formally ask the agency to adopt a rule. A little bit about rule petitions. Any interested person, which is a term of art, can submit a rule petition to TDLR. To be an interested person, they have to be a Texas resident, a business entity located in Texas, a governmental subdivision, so that could include a county, a city, utility district, and so forth, or a public or private organization that's not a state agency but is located in Texas. So if someone files a rule petition, what that does under the APA and under our procedural rules, we have to look at the petition and our executive director has to formally respond to it by either initiating a rulemaking or by responding in writing. It's the reason why we're not going to initiate a rulemaking at this time. So it's a process that may come up. It's kind of rare, but it requires a formal response, and it's a way to initiate a rulemaking. This flow chart just kind of gives you an overview of the rulemaking process. You start out with the rule idea. There's a lot of analysis that goes on. There's a lot of steps that happen before we get to the first advisory board meeting. And then once the advisory board recommends that the rule be formally proposed, there's steps that happen after that. It gets proposed in the Texas Register. There's a 30-day comment period where members of the public can comment on the rules. Then we will review those comments, and generally there'll be a second advisory board meeting to consider the comments, consider whether or not we need to make changes to the proposed rule based on the comments that come in. And then it goes to a commission meeting. The commission will vote on whether or not to adopt it. And then there's another notice that goes to the Texas Register to notify the public that the rule has been adopted. There's some variation here. Some of these steps we don't follow every time. Some of these are required by law. But that's the general flow of things is this. There's another flow chart. This one talks about the rule review process. That's under APA section 2001.039, the 4-year rule review. TDR is kind of unique in that we have a whole lot of programs. We have 41 programs. So we don't do our rule reviews for all the programs at once. We stagger them. We review the programs on a staggered basis. But each program is on a 4-year rule review schedule. When we're doing the rule review, we issue a notice of intent to review that goes in the Texas Register. That lets the public know that we're looking at the rules, and if they have suggestions, they can comment. We review those comments, and then the commission will generally formally re-adopt the rule. Now, if as a result of those comments, either the internal comments or the external comments, it's clear to us that there needs to be a change to the rule or a repeal of a rule. We don't actually do that during the rule review process because we would separately have to notify the public that we're thinking about changing or repealing a rule. So that is done through a separate rulemaking that is started as a result of this 4-year rule review process. When we get comments on rule review, quite often we'll bring those to the advisory board so we can talk about those comments and decide whether or not we need to move forward with any of those or further study them. This is a list of resources having to do with rulemaking, including some guidance from the Attorney General's office and Secretary of State. But again, I'm your guidance. You have questions about APA, any of that, just feel free to reach out to me and I will get you answers. Lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about the Public Information Act, which most people call Open Records Act. It is a law that creates a right for the public to access records of our government, and so it's an important statute. It's in many ways it's the state analog to the Federal Freedom of Information Act. It's a similar statute. It's a little bit distinct in how it works. There's a presumption under the Public Information Act that all documents, records, and other official information relating to official business is open to the public, that you can get it. So just keep in mind, anything you put in writing, whether it's an email, text message, doesn't matter. If it's having to do with official TDR business, chances are that that's going to be, a member of the public can get a hold of that. There are exceptions for things that are attorney-client privileged, and there's a number of other exceptions to things that are confidential under the Public Information Act. Again, the act is to be construed liberally in favor of granting requests for information. The public, how does the public request records? They're supposed to do it through our website. There's a link on our website to send an open records request. They can also do it by email, but people don't always send it through the official channel. Sometimes people might reach out to you individually. They might reach out to me, and they might request records. Our open record team will still review and respond to that, and it's time sensitive. So if you receive anything that is a request for records, please forward that to the open records team within Office of General Counsel. We want to touch on the fact that open record requests are time sensitive. Generally, TDR has 10 business days after we receive the request to respond to it and say why we're not going to release some of the records. So because we could lose our ability to withhold records that we might need to withhold, it's real important that we respond to it timely and we don't delay in getting that to the right place, the right people within the agency whose job it is to review and respond to the open record request. Now, this is just, open records is very complicated as far as the number of exceptions that are in the statute. And we have a dedicated team that is responsible for that. They withhold records, redact records, and they request guidance from the Attorney General, which is part of the process in some cases. But just some things that are confidential that would be redacted out if someone were to request open records include sensitive information like dates of birth, email addresses for people who aren't affiliated with the government, so private people's email address, driver's licenses, VIN numbers, credit card numbers, some protected health information, and so forth. Generally, we have to get a ruling from the Attorney General's office to withhold or redact information. There are certain things that we're able to withhold or redact without an Attorney General opinion. So that varies depending on what exactly it is. The big idea, though, is don't put anything in writing that you don't want on the front page of the New York Times. Don't send emails, text messages, things that you don't want public, because even if you think it's your personal email, it's still the public still has a right to it. And so we just have to be very cautious about records, and we want to make sure that we respond to open records requests that come in. If you receive anything that looks like it might be an open records request, people are asking it for information, immediately forward that to the Office of General Counsel. And just keep in mind, it's possible that we might reach out to you if someone is requesting records that you might have, even if it might be on your personal email, if it relates to public business. So just keep in mind, it's important to be aware of the open records requirements. I think there's some resources, but again, reach out to me if you have any questions. That concludes my open government refresher training. Open to any questions.
Okay, if there's no further questions, job well done, Stephen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Moving on to agenda item D, approval of the previous meeting. It's amazing that we haven't had a meeting since June 10th of 24. So if you'd, that's behind the information that Stephen just gave us. If the board would review that, and I'll accept a motion and a second for approval.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, Kim Allen, to approve.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim. Do I have a second?
Liddell Toy. Seconds.
Mr. Liddell Toy is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you,
Miss-
gentlemen.
Mr. Matheny, I can do a roll call for that one.
Okay.
Okay, members, this is for motion and second for the approval of the June 10th, 2024 meeting minutes. Marcus Lundergreen,
Aye.
Mark Henderson,
Aye.
Troy Webb,
Aye.
Christopher Bass,
Aye.
Liddell Toy,
Aye.
Kim Allen,
Aye.
and presiding officer Mark Matheny.
Aye.
Okay, sir, the motion passes.
Thank you, Alex. Item E, public comment. It looks like we have 3 people that would like to speak. Is that correct? And
Yes, sir.
did Mr. Dennis Chambers is up first? Has he fixed his mic problem? So roughly each person has about 3 minutes to speak, and board members, we're not allowed to ask questions or respond to their comments.
Looks like I don't know if we lost Mr. Chambers. Okay, it looks like we lost Mr. Chambers for the moment, but we can move on to Mr. Joe Esparza.
Hey, good morning, members. My name is Joe Esparza. I'm the chairman of, for the record, I'm the chairman of the Texas Workforce Commission. I appreciate the advisory committee for what they're doing. Any chance that I can get to speak, shed light on our trades, I appreciate the opportunity. Today, I want to talk about or provide a little bit of information on our electricians, and I asked our LMI department to give us some information about our job postings that I can provide to you. And so over the past year, there were over 8,000 unique job postings for electrician in Texas, advertised by over 1,600 employers. And while there might be some fluctuations from month to month, the big picture is very undeniable. Demand for electricians remains strong, and Texas is currently bracing for the critical need for skilled trades like our electricians. In fact, over the past year, the number of listings increased 11.6%, and these aren't just any jobs; they're stable and challenging positions, often in essential sectors like electrical contracting and construction, HVAC, and plumbing. In 2024 alone, electricians in Texas earned an average of over $57,000 a year. That's roughly about $28 to $29 an hour. Even with starting out, you can expect to be about $42,000 annually, and that only increases in experience, obviously, where experienced electricians can earn an average of $66,000 per year. The need for electricians just isn't high right now. It's projected to explode in the next coming years. So we're looking at a look back to 2020 up to 2032. So in a 10-year span, Texas is expected to add over 1,200 or 12,500 electrician jobs, which equals 18.1% in growth, and that's going to be a huge need. This translates to nearly 8,000 job openings every year due to new growth, retirement, and people moving in from into other fields. This is in sectors like construction and professional services. We'll be needing more electricians, especially in the Gulf Coast, Dallas, and capital area. And this creates a huge opportunity for emerging workforce and electricians that are currently in certification programs itself, like our friends over at the Texas State Technical College. And it puts them into a thriving field with long-term security. TWC understands the critical need for skills trades like electricians, and we're proud to partner with institutions like TSTC to address these workforce demands. Our agency, through the grace of the legislature, offers numerous grant programs across the states, and these grants are designed to support training programs, apprenticeships, and job placement assistance, ensuring that graduates like the ones that we talked about in these programs are well equipped to succeed. My confidence in TSTC is very high because they provide a great pathway to a successful career as an electrician, and the demand is there. The wages are competitive, and the support through grant and training is available. So I'll continue to encourage our job seekers and our emerging workforce to seize the opportunity, dedicate themselves to training, and become the skilled electricians that Texas is in need for currently. So thank you for this opportunity to provide this public comment, and I appreciate the members and what they're continuing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Esparza. Next up, we have Lakey Todd. Is he on here?
Mr. Presiding Officer, it does not look like Mr. Todd has logged in.
Okay, so is that it for public comments?
Yes, sir. Let me double check and see if Mr. Chambers got back. No. Yes, sir. That is all we have for public comments.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to industry update with our TDLR Executive Director, Courtney Arbor.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for meeting today. I want to echo the sentiment you've heard at the start of this meeting. We really appreciate you participating on this advisory board and lending your time and expertise to these discussions. Presiding officer, I always want to say Matheny. Sorry, I'll get it, Mark. And I have talked, we will ensure that you have an opportunity to meet at least annually and more often when you would like to do that. But we wanted to thank you and let you know that we acknowledge and appreciate your expertise and you giving us a part of your time. I also wanted to thank the public commenters. I was sorry that some weren't able to stay on the call, but Chairman Esparza, I appreciated his remarks. I came to TDLR about 1.5 years ago from the Workforce Commission. And so I came to this industry from the vantage point of workforce development. And for those of you members or anyone that's watching this, this is such a critical industry to our state. And we're really proud to work with you to see whatever we can do to support the industry and to help encourage growth without ever threatening the rigor of programs and exam requirements. So we want to be a great partner with you and we'll be looking to you for help as advisory board members as we have these conversations. So I wanted to thank TSTC for being a guest today and for all of our expert staff who are here. And Mr. Matheny, I would love to turn it over to you to talk with us. We know we just heard some labor market data about the industry and appreciation for the industry and what you all do for the state and how you help the state grow and the critical part you play. But I'd love to hear from you about how the industry has changed in recent years and any thoughts that you'd like to start us off with as far as what you're seeing in industry and what the needs are.
Thank you, Courtney. In the past year, I've heard Texas called ground zero. I've heard this called the second industrial revolution. Through the government, from the federal government to the state. There's figures out there that we have to produce 180,000 journeyman electrician in the next 4 to 5 years to keep up with the growth, not just statewide, but eventually nationally. And that's already happening as well. The biggest thing that I see, training people is one thing, but skilled labor is maybe the most important aspect of all this, whether it's in manufacturing. Steel plants have come back, car plants have come back to Texas, and the data centers are just, I don't know what the bubble is on that, but right now they're just coming up everywhere, and it takes a lot of labor. I'm sure everybody can agree with that. So, and amidst all that, developing electricians, we have to preserve the integrity of our electrical license at the same time. So I look forward to having later on the agenda, we'll hear from TSTC, and I look forward to listening to them, and hopefully we can be able to set up some sort of task force to work hand in hand with them and maybe address things that they don't know yet or problems that we can foresee, ways to help them in their journey. There's a ton of money being thrown around, whether it's from private investment or from the state government, and it's going to be utilized to train electricians and other skilled labor. And so this is our task to develop the future of the electrical industry right now. So thank you. And with that, I think we're ready to move on to staff reports.
Thank you,
And we'll
Mr.
start
Matheny.
out with licensing division with Mary Hoffman.
Good morning, advisory board members. My name is Mary Hoffman, and I'm the licensing manager over the electricians program. I came to the licensing division in October of 2024. And so I've been with the program for a little over a year now. And so this is my first time being able to meet you all, and it's a pleasure to meet you. Prior to coming to the licensing division, I was a manager in the compliance division. And so I've been with TDLR for a little over 9 years. And I will be providing the staff report for you all. On the report in front of you, and also included in your meeting materials, you will see the statistics for fiscal year 2025, and fiscal year 2026. I'm just going to highlight a few of the numbers, and if you have any questions regarding anything that you see, feel free to jump in or at the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. The total population for individuals licensed for fiscal year 2026, that is going to be just for the first 4 months from September to December. Our total individual population is 217,897. And you'll see that's a slight increase from fiscal year 25. And if we go to the contractor licensing, you'll see the total population is 13,615 for fiscal year 26. And again, this is for the first 4 years of this fiscal year. And that is a slight increase there as well. Now, scrolling down, you'll see population by license types. And then at the very bottom, if you keep scrolling a little bit, you'll see the total for the entire population, including contractors and individuals for fiscal year 2026. The total population is 231,512. Again, which is an increase from the previous year. That is my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Great report, Mary. This is Steve Bruneau, Deputy Executive Director for Licensing and Regulatory Services. I just want to point out a couple of things and see if I'm looking at this correctly, Mary.
Okay.
Let's just look at apprentices. In all of
Yes.
last year, we had 145,406.
Correct.
We're 4 months into this fiscal year, and we've already passed that number for the number of apprentices?
So that number may fluctuate. It really depends on if someone is when someone renews a license, if we
Okay.
have new people applying for a license, but that is what we have currently, the total at the end of December.
So
Yes.
this is certainly, we've heard a little bit about the shortage and we recognize that, but this seems encouraging. It seems to me that if these numbers continue, then by the end of this fiscal year, we could have higher population numbers than the previous fiscal year. I know no one has a magic wand, of course, so I'm not going to ask you to guarantee me that, but it does seem like that's where we're headed.
Correct. It does look like there is an increase in licensing population.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is
Any
Kit
additional
Bass.
questions?
I was curious, do we have a projection of what that number looks like at the end of 26?
I do not have projected numbers for the end of 2026. I can get with our management analyst and see if there's something that they can provide for us. And I can get back with the advisory board on that.
Thanks,
Okay.
Mary. I think, Mr. Hoffman, that's a great question. We'll be able to at least look at past data. You know,
Right.
we can't just say, we can't say who's going to start applying, but the more that folks are paying attention and the more that we talk about it and the more that we can do to encourage folks to get into this industry, it looks good like we're going to start to see some increasing numbers. So
And
we'll definitely be keeping an eye on it.
And I do want to mention with the reciprocity agreements that TDLR in Texas are going into with other state agencies, I do see an increase in many of our licensing populations.
I'm sorry, this is Kit Bass again. Is that something we could also add? Like, I know we're going to meet more often, that, you know, which states we are reciprocal with the influx of all the work. So it is public knowledge for everyone to readily see. I know we can dig into it and find, but maybe interesting to see who on these slides, who we're reciprocal with.
Okay, I can look and see if we have that data that we can pull a report and provide that information to you at the next meeting. Also, you can see on our website who we have reciprocal agreements with. However, that's not going to tell you the number of individuals that came through that pathway. But we can pull that data for you.
Thank you.
You're
What we
welcome.
will show, Mary, is that correct? This is Steve Bruno again. We will show the actual states that as we add them, the states will be listed there. Is that correct?
That is correct. And I
Great.
apologize. I'm forgetting to announce my name again. Mary
Thanks.
Huffman.
Thanks, Mary.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so Troy, so when you look at these numbers, one thing to remember is just because you see this number here doesn't mean all of these employees are working here in the state of Texas. Because the work outside of Texas is booming, and I can probably guarantee you 40 to 50% of these numbers are working out of state.
That is this is Mary in licensing. That is a possibility, yes.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
Good job. Now we'll look at Education Examination Division with Ford Strawn, Division Director.
Good morning, Chairman and members. My name is Ford Strawn. I'm the Director for Education Examination. Newly appointed. I've been in this role since right before December. Beforehand, I've met a lot of y'all. I was a manager here in education. And then I'd gone to the compliance division over our consumer protection area, where I was the manager for the electricians from compliance that are also on the call. So really proud to be here. Excited to give you all their updates today. I want to sit in front of you, introduce myself, let you know that your industry is prominent for me. It's a passion coming from compliance and being over here. So anything y'all ever need, please reach out to me. Let me know what I can do to help y'all attain your growth you're looking for. We're going to talk about exam pass rates and everything else today as well. So I'll start with my updates I have in front of you here. We're really excited to announce that we had approved our first CTE program, a career and technology education program, in April of this year. Currently, we have 2 CTE programs registered with the department, which is Texas State Technical College and Keller ISD. These are initiatives we've been working on and will continue to work on, getting everybody approved for a CTE program as we move forward that's looking for it. Additionally, we've been hard at work in conjunction with our partners in compliance and with subject matter experts to make key updates to our electrical examinations. As you probably know by now, in March of 2025, we split the journeyman examination, much like the master examination had been split before. Something the industry had been asking for. It kind of breaks up that really long examination into 2 parts. So if you're successful on one, you were failing at calculations or NEC code, you're not going to have to retake all of it again. You'll take one of those 2 parts. So that's a recent implementation. We also kind of see some of that pass rates and everything a little bit later. And then we also began re-referencing electrical exam items to go with the 2026 NEC code book. If you'll scroll down for me a little bit there, Alex. And so we have the planned update for republication for the 2026 NEC codebook set to go live September 1st of this year. And then to get to that point, we held 3 ERCs, which is exam review committees. That's where our subject matter experts, compliance, our vendor, for our examination vendor, and our education examination staff come together to look at all the items, how they're performing, create new items, update to new NEC code books, and look at any other laws that may have been passed that are going to impact our examinations to make sure they're performing at the highest level to get us as many minimally qualified candidates as possible and get them licensed. And leading into our projects, you'll see here, one of the things that we've really been working on coming into this is I've been pressing the examination staff here and with our master electricians in conjunction with these ERCs to really look at how we can organically increase the pass rates for our exams. We know that these pass rates are something that the industry has looked at for a long time now with low pass rates. It's something we see consistently through state to state in comparison. And when I say organically, we don't want to just, remove any difficult items. We want to put safety first and paramount, as you all know. But we also want to make sure that when we're writing exam items, when we're looking at these things, it's for the journeyman, if you're applying for a master, it's for that journeyman with 4 years of experience coming into being a master, not somebody who is a master of 20 years. Making sure our exam is really speaking to that, because we want to get people licensed that are qualified for those licenses at that point. So that's really been a big focus for us, along with increased communication and increased information to you all, which I'll highlight here after the statistics. If you'll move down for me, Alex, real quick. So again, you'll see our pass rates, they remained kind of consistent from FY25 to beginning of FY26. Not any significant changes up or down on our pass rates there. If you go down a little bit further, Alex, you'll see our breakout of examinations by license type. Again, this remains consistent from our prior fiscal years that we have seen. And so this is our breakout of every different type that we have for master, journeyman, maintenance, residential wireman, etc. If you'll scroll down again for me, Alex. For continuing education courses, you'll see we remain pretty steady with a slight increase in FY26 in the number of continuing education providers that we have. And you'll also see the same within our electrician apprentice programs. I cannot speak today. And then scroll down again for me, Alex. I don't know why it's showing blank on your side.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know I'm going to close program and open it real quick and then get back in it.
Apologies, y'all. Seems the rest of the report is blank, so just a second.
Stephen Leary, Assistant General Counsel. We are having some internet difficulties here at TDLR that may be related to that. Maybe it's having trouble loading.
Yeah, there we go. That should everybody see that?
Yes, sir. If you can scroll up just slightly, there we go.
Or was I?
So, yeah, a little bit more.
Okay.
So here is the scroll down to the early journeyman exam statistics. So here you'll see the early journeyman exam statistics, people that are taking their exam early. You'll see the first time pass rates on these are much higher, 60%, 70%. And then you'll see that the repeat pass rate is something that we see consistent with the overall pass rates before and after. So what I want to highlight is moving on to the next area, which is some new information y'all have never seen before. So when I talk about improving our communication, improving the tools that you all have to help us organically increase these pass rates, what some of our industries benefit from our exam vendor is we have the luxury of licensing the schools for them. And because those students are tied to a school and we have their information and tie them to a school, those schools actually have a score report for them. Every candidate you have actually gets an individual score report. For every other industry that does not have a school that we license, you do not have an industry-wide score report until now. So this is data that we've created. Every topic that you see is actually broken out within our current candidate information bulletin. And this will actually show you, so you have some insight into the examinations over where candidates are failing and where they could get additional points. This is just this is a highlight of this. We'll be making this available on the website here soon with the other exam statistics on every page. But basically what this will allow you all to do as masters, whether you have an actual CTE program or anything else, is be able to look at this and see, are people passing calculations in theory on their first time pass rate? Are they doing worse on their repeats? Are they successful in renewable energy technologies, motors and generators? It can actually break down where you need to focus your education, your training that you're getting with guys out there, either in the field or in the classroom. And so this is a really big tool that right now to unpack can be a lot. But really, it will give you an insight into where we are with this exam across the state, where we can see giant improvements. When I look at this right now for the first one, I look at the master electrician on the calculations portion. First time pass rate, if I look at electrical services, equipment, and separately derived devices, that's something where under 50% of people are getting a passing grade in that area. Improving that alone by a few points would significantly increase the overall pass rate for these individuals. They're missing almost 5 out of the in total 8 points for that area. You've never had that insight before as a statewide identity where you can see this information. And I hope that by providing this additional information, it can help masters that are training journeymen or our programs that we have out there like TSTC or other CTE programs, really be able to focus in on areas that we believe could help future candidates be more successful. With that being said, that concludes my report today, and I'm open to any questions you all have.
This is Steve Bruno, Deputy Executive Director. That's excellent. Thank you so much to you and your team for bringing this new information, especially at this time as we're talking about what we can do to help support and grow this industry. This is really critical information. So excellent work. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Liddell Toy here. I got a quick question. On that report, you have TSTC and Keller ISD on signed up. Whatever happened to Gary Job Corps in San Marcos? They had an electrical program there that they were working on, and are they even in the realm anymore?
It's a very good question. It was something I'd have to get with my staff to see if they had applied for their CTE program, if they were still working on it, or what information we've had on it. I myself have not had any interaction with them in the last 2 months that I've been in this position, but I can certainly get that information for you and send it back to the advisory board team.
Okay. Yeah, because go ahead.
I just wanted to jump in. Courtney Arbor, the federal government actually was in the process of closing Gary Job Corps. There was an announcement a couple of months ago. I hesitated to bring it up because I don't have the detail, but I don't believe that program is operating at this time, or if so, it's likely not expanding.
Yeah, because I think, if you got Keller ISD, it'd be wonderful to try to get some more school districts to take up, electrician courses, because it's going to be, we're losing or not gaining any, but the masses would be wonderful if we can get more kids involved with this.
That's great. Yeah. I'll pass that along to Chair Joe Esparza of TWC if he's not on the call, because I know they're involved in dual credit work and some CTE programs with TEA.
Perfect. Thank you.
This is Chairman Matheny. Ford, good job on the statistics. I've always enjoyed these, and it shows that the apprenticeship programs do work, looking at the passing rates of 7K journeyman testing applicants. And then the breakdown at the end, that's really good stuff.
Awesome.
My hat's off to you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Chairman, appreciate the comments, and I look forward to working with y'all, as I said earlier. So anything y'all see in there, I will let you know when that's available on the website, so you can really dive into all the different exam breakouts of all the different types, from residential wireman up to master. And I hope that those tools are useful, and anything else you all need from my division, please let me know.
Thanks again.
Yes, sir.
All right, moving on to customer service with Patricia Castellan.
Good morning, advisory board members. I'm Patricia Martinez Castellan. I'm one of 3 managers in customer service, and I'm also the contact person for electricians in our division. I've been in my role for 3 years and at TDLR for 6 collectively, of which I've held multiple roles. And I will be presenting our report for today, which shows our customer service statistics broken down by emails and phone calls. This is for fiscal years 2025 and 2026. So far, numbers do not seem to spike drastically and appear to be consistent with previous fiscal years. However, we do internally track for license status inquiries to ensure that licenses are being processed as quickly as possible. January data is not included as the month has not yet come to an end. However, it will be added once we enter into February. That concludes the customer service report. Please let me know if there are any questions.
Okay, thank you, Patricia.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Moving on
Patricia.
to Enforcement Division with Leslie Nichols, prosecutor.
Good morning, presiding officer and board member. My name is Leslie Nichols. I am a new prosecutor for the Enforcement Division, and I've been assigned to handle building and mechanical cases, of which electrical falls under. I'm new to TDLR. I started in November, but I'm not new to administrative hearings and enforcement issues. So glad to be here, and I've been digging into building and mechanical cases, and yeah, they're very interesting, and I'm glad to be here. So I'll be presenting the Enforcement Division report. Now, these statistics compare throughout the Enforcement Division, compare the first quarter of the fiscal year 2025 to the first quarter of fiscal year 2026. So we're just looking, just everyone to know that our first quarter is that September through November is what we're going to be looking at. So when we start off, we'll look at enforcement's performance measures. We can see the activity in electrical program versus all programs that TDLR manages. And notably, you can see an uptick in the number of complaints opened in fiscal year 26 across all programs. The statistics remain relatively stable with some indication that electrical cases during this period were being resolved a bit faster compared to all cases. One thing that may explain this statistic is the lower percentage of complaints resulting in disciplinary action that went from 8.06% in fiscal year 25 to 3.46% in fiscal year 26. And then we'll jump down to the next section, which is criminal history review. This reflects general growth in applications. But as we can see, the outcomes for those applications have remained relatively stable in regard to how they're being processed in regard to criminal history. And then the next section, if we can go down a little bit, is going to be the source of complaints. Is going to show, and you can go down to that, yeah, where we see the pie chart. So the source of complaints, we can see consumer complaints for electricians has a slight decline while the overall number of complaints shows an increase. And we do know that our complaints kind of go in a seasonal rotation. So notable in this section is the increase in complaints originating from the department in fiscal year 26. I did look into that, and that seems to be coming from that our annual sting that normally happens in May was switched. So this reflects some of the activity from that departmental action. And then if we roll down a little bit, we have caseloads in enforcement. And this information is very similar to the numbers provided in the performance measures. So we'll go ahead and move on to orders issued. And here you can see there were fewer cases closed due to orders in fiscal year 26, which corresponds to the lower percentage of cases that I noted at the beginning. And next we can look at the penalties and consumer remedies, which as expected by the difference in orders is also lower for fiscal year 26 versus fiscal year 25. The disciplinary sanctions shows an overall decreasing trend for the department in fiscal year 26. Cases closed without disciplinary action, as mentioned earlier, you can see that has a slight increase, but you can see those categories are remaining relatively consistent. The next two sections show you the top alleged violations and the top violations that result in disciplinary action, followed by two case summaries from fiscal year 2025. Um, and this kind of concludes my report, but I did want to just mention um, from enforcement that we do have myself and there's another new attorney. We now have a 3 attorney team in building and mechanical, and I just anticipate seeing cases moving along a little bit, moving along and being cleared out and being handled more efficiently on a going forward basis. But I'm open to any questions that you might have as to the information provided.
Liddell Toy here. Why is can you go back to the penalties collected? Why is it 0? You guys, looks like you guys gave 24 grand in fines, but nothing's been collected. Yeah.
And that happens. So when we assess the penalties, for example, if we do it through a settlement agreement, then we usually collect. But if those were assessed like from a default order, a lot of times they will just go through the default process and end up going to collections. And so that's likely what's going on there. And as I said at the beginning, the quarter we're looking at has that lower activity in sanctions, penalties or sanctions being applied. And so you can see that number is a lot lower. From kind of just looking at the cases, it looks like a lot of what was going on in this first quarter was we've been on a major push to bring our back caseload up. And so I think it's kind of a reflection of going through a lot of older cases that are being closed due to stale evidence or, things like that. And that's why I think that penalty assessed is considerably lower. And the penalties collected, I didn't look specifically as to whether that comes directly from default, but I'm assuming because of the 0 collected, it's probably because we did a default order. Unfortunately.
Thanks, Leslie. This is Steve Bruno, Deputy Executive Director. I just want to jump in and provide a little bit more context to those. Unfortunately, Leslie is correct, and a lot of times when it's what we call a default, it's someone who has violated, and we're doing our best to go after them, but they don't always respond to us, and sometimes they do disappear. So that's when they do end up. We do have a collections process to try and go after those, because we definitely want to ensure that the punishment is fully enforced. But unfortunately, we do have people who will ignore us and disappear. So that's also part of the explanation for that.
And thank you, Steve, for bringing. This is Leslie Nichols again. For stating that. I always forget that not everyone understands how that works. But yeah, we do have a full collections process that goes through our general counsel, and then it eventually ends up with the attorney general. And just for those of you that don't know, once this happens to that individual, if they try to do anything in Texas, that penalty will come up. So if they try to, start a business, file anything with the Secretary of State, go into another industry, this penalty with us will show up, and they'll have to make good on it before they can do anything else in Texas.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I look forward to working with y'all.
Thank you, Leslie. It's a lot of work to do. Job well done. Moving on to the Compliance Division, I'd like to hear from Larry Reichel, Chief Electrical Inspector, and Josh Hall.
Well, good morning, Chairman Matheny and Advisory Board members. My name is Larry Reichel. As of December of last year, I am working on my 20th year here at TDLR, 17 being the Deputy Chief Electrical. And then once my predecessor, Jerry Daniel, retired, I took the Chief Electrical position. So no issues there with moving from one to the next. And as you can see on our staff report, we've been all over the state of Texas, including even outside the state of Texas, where we went to our NERA meeting, in-person NERA meeting in Montana, which is the National Electrical Reciprocity Alliance. And then moving to another spot, we went to California and Las Vegas for the NFPA voting. Josh and I sit on Code Making Panel 17, and we actively vote on the development of the National Electric Code. If you can scroll down a little bit, Alex, please. You can see that we're constantly in exam development, staying on top of our exams, going over poorly written items or poorly items that are not testing very well. So we try to fix those. And we've been doing the update for the 2026. And we still continue some of our license sweeps. And as you can see down on March, we had a license sweep where Miss Courtney Arbor came with us and experienced a portion of what we do as compliance. Further on, we have amped up, pun intended, we have amped up our outreach to the schools, the colleges, the high schools, and we go wherever we're invited to talk to the students about the electrical industry, the careers that it has, the law and the rules. And since our last On the Level went out, or the TDLR update went out, we've already had requests to come to Del Rio, so we'll be doing that in February. But lastly, in brief, I want to hand it over to Josh, because prior to House Bill 11, the electrical program for TDLR has been decades of looking at reciprocity with other states. House Bill 11 kind of pushed that forward, and I'm glad to say that Josh has spear pointed this, taken this bull by the horn, and has talked to almost every state. I will let him further the conversation on our reciprocity and what he has done for the state of Texas. So I will hand it over to you, Josh.
Thank you, Larry, and good morning, everyone. As Larry mentioned, my name is Josh Hall, and I'm the Deputy Electrical Inspector here at TDLR. I've been in this role now for about a year and 8 months. And as Larry mentioned, last year we had our latest legislative session, and one of the bills that was passed was House Bill 11. And that bill really encouraged us as a department to pursue and maximize our licensing reciprocity agreements. So when this bill went into law, I kind of decided to spearhead the initiative and try to go over all 50 states, including Washington, D.C., and try to find anyone that was considered substantially equivalent to our requirements on the testing requirements, the on-the-job training requirements, having to hold a journeyman license before you get to your master's, etc. And last month on December 31st, the last day of the year, we were actually able to finalize an agreement for master electricians with the state of Arkansas, and that became active on December 31st. And I'm also happy to announce that yesterday we were able to finalize and make active a master agreement also with the state of Iowa. So that, as of yesterday, is now in effect here in Texas. And going forward right now, I'm currently working on a master and residential wireman agreement with the state of Oklahoma, hopefully a master agreement with New Mexico. And I presented to the State Electrical Board of Minnesota earlier this month as well, to try and to pursue a journeyman agreement and get something going with them. There are several other states I'm talking to right now. There's a little bit of roadblocks you run into, especially up northeast with the higher union states that require the 500 to 700 hours of classroom instruction for licensure, unlike Texas. So you run into, to some of those things that you have to kind of discuss with the state and see ways around that and what could possibly be done. But I'm currently in discussion with several states. But I hope to have many more agreements done over the course of this year, and we'll always send updates once I have them. But I'd be happy to answer any questions or hear any concerns dealing with reciprocity.
Any questions for us?
Liddell Toy. Josh, where are you at with Colorado?
So Colorado has been one over the past decade that it looked like we'd have a deal done, at least for journeymen, and then it would fall off because they would have a staff change. And this happened several times. They've had another new person come in since I've started here that I've dealt with our NERA meetings, our National Electrical Reciprocity Alliance, and they don't really seem that interested right now. I'm trying to trying to get it to the table and still working on it, but they right now with the staff change, the current staff just does not seem interested. And I've ran into that with lots of states. They just are not interested in reciprocating right now or signing any new agreements, but I'll keep trying on it.
Yeah, I know that was the same thing that Jerry was saying. The staff changes, and I knew that was kind of a roadblock. But continue on.
Thank you.
No further questions? Well, thank you for all the hard work, Larry and Josh. Appreciate it.
Yeah, great job, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, now we'll head towards agenda item H. And it looks like we're going to revisit the code issue on ground fault circuit interrupting requirements. And I'd like to call on Stephen Leary, Assistant General Counsel.
Yes, sir. Steve Leary, Assistant General Counsel. Did we miss
Excuse
the?
me.
Yeah.
Excuse me, one moment. I'm sorry to interrupt. We just wanted to make sure that we get the agency update.
Oh, sorry
We just
about
had that left in the staff report
My
section. and then we
apologies,
can
Mr.
move forward.
Bruno.
No problem. No problem. It's Steve Bruno, Deputy Executive Director for Licensing and Regulatory Services. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and advisory board members. And I'm not sure if Courtney's still on. Hi, Courtney, my boss. Please jump in anytime if you'd like to say anything. I just wanted to give a few quick updates. You've heard from Michael Ford-Strawn. Michael Ford is our new Director of Education and Exam Division, and we're very happy to have him in place. Personnel-wise, we also have Craig Howard as our Director of Customer Service. These are two of the 6 divisions that I am privileged to work with every day on the licensing and regulatory side. You've heard me say the licensing and regulatory side a couple times. That's a difference for our agency since you all last met. We went through the legislative session, and for those of you who have known TDLR for a while, you won't be surprised to learn that we were given some additional duties. We've got a new program called the Residential Solar Appliance Installers. It relates closely to your program. And as you all may have seen, over the past few years, there were concerns about folks who were not being properly informed, and of sales agents who were not using lawful methods, and et cetera. So the legislature passed this law to have our agency, TDLR, oversee and regulate the sales of those solar panels for homes. So that is something that's being worked on. From the session, the other big news that impacted our agency is that the assignments from the Texas Lottery Commission and the Charitable Bingo Division were assigned to TDLR. So those are no longer their own state agencies. They are all now under our agency. The transition has been going very well. Combining 2 agencies, it presents its own set of challenges, as you can all imagine. But we are all united in our desire and dedication to public service and to Texans, and our transition has been going well. The last update I want to provide is about a multi-year project that we have going on called TDLR Core. TDLR Core is our license replacement project. As you know, we've got many systems as we've grown over the years. Some are a little older. Some could definitely be more user-friendly, both on the internal side and on the external side for you all as licensees. So that is a program that I am privileged to serve as the executive sponsor for our agency. And you will be getting regular updates throughout each advisory board meeting. And if you pay attention to our commission meetings over the next several years, we will be talking about TDLR Core. As we get closer to the electricians program coming on to that, we'll stay in much more regular communication and possibly be reaching out to some of you to help us take a look at the system and test it out, ask you some questions, make sure that we're getting everything in it that we need as we're developing this. That concludes my update, and I'm happy to answer any questions or comments that you may have.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks.
Sorry about the mishap there.
No worries.
All right, now we'll move on to item H, discussions and recommendations, and I'll turn it over to Stephen Leary, Assistant General Counsel.
Thank you, sir. And good morning, everyone. Stephen Leary, Assistant General Counsel. Item H is a rulemaking to adopt the 2026 National Electric Code published by the National Fire Protection Association with one modification that we're recommending. I'm going to share the draft rule up on the screen, and I'll kind of walk through the background, and then I'll open up to any questions. And okay, I just want to confirm you have the draft rule up on your screen. Are you able to view it? Okay. Texas Occupations Code Section 1305-101A2 requires the department every 3 years to adopt the most recently published National Electric Code. The National Electric Code permits the department to waive code requirements when doing so will not have a negative impact on safety. We adopt the National Electric Code through a rulemaking to Rule 73.100 technical requirements. This particular issue that we're going to talk about today has to do with the requirement of ground fault current interrupters, ground fault circuit interrupters, GFCI technology for outdoor outlets that are used for heating, ventilation, air conditioning equipment or HVAC equipment. This issue has been going on, has been a topic of rulemaking since 2020. In 2020, the NFPA, National Fire Protection Association, first introduced a requirement that outdoor electric outlets be equipped with the GFCIs. And that was for electrical safety to prevent electrical shocks by people who might contact the equipment. And there have been concerns about nuisance tripping, meaning that the GFCI outlet will trip when there's not an electrical shock hazard due to technical issues having to do with the motors that are used in that equipment. So back in 2020, the commission approved an exception that it made it to where outdoor electric outlets that are used for HVAC equipment don't have to have GFCIs. In 2023, when the FEA came forward with the National Electric Code, they excluded that requirement altogether about outdoor outlets. 2026 electrical code came out last August. It included the outdoor GFCI requirement again, but it included in kind of a period to get people ready for it, so to speak. So for HVAC equipment, there's an exception in the National Electric Code that there's until September 1st, 2026 to phase in that requirement. This proposed rulemaking extends that time to March 1st, 2027 for the outdoor electrical outlets to have the GFCIs for HVAC equipment. So it's modifying the exception that's already in the proposed National Electric Code for another 6 months. And the point of that is that the technology is not currently readily available, according to our commission staff, to prevent the nuisance tripping. I understand from Mr. Reichel that there are high frequency GFCI outlets that are have been designed, but they're not commercially, not widespread in their availability. There's some continued concerns about nuisance tripping. So this proposed rule would adopt the 2026 National Electric Code, but it would extend the exception for the outdoor electrical outlets until March 1st, 2027. We can certainly change that if you wanted to. We could go a different direction, but we wanted to put this before you and have that discussion. And if you do want to go along with this, the governor's office has approved it for us to propose. If we want to make a change, we can make a change. But open to any questions. And also, Mr. Reichel, I invite you to jump in if you have anything to add.
So Troy Webb here. Hey, can we just not extend this to the next code cycle?
We could do that. That would be another option.
That's what I would love.
Yeah, this is Larry Reichel, Chief Electrical Inspector. We're going to look at it on a 6-month period right now. Mr. Webb, due to the fact that I have had conversations with manufacturers, it is in the HFGFCI is in development, but I assured them that we would look at it at 6 months to see if it is now compatible with 100% of the manufactured AC equipment and readily available for the electrical contractors and constituents of Texas. So at that 6-month period, we will reevaluate it. If it needs to go further, then we'll vote on that. If we're able to end it and go to the HFGFCI because it's available and it's compatible with all the equipment, then we can look at that as well.
Yeah,
Mark Anderson. What about the rewire renovation where they have existing HVAC equipment? It's going to be required to have the ground fault protection. I'm a little concerned that we're going to see the same thing we saw with the arc fault protection. They had to kick it down the road and we kept having trouble with it for a long time. I'm almost to the point where I think the next code cycle would be prudent as well.
We can very well look at that if that's the way you want to go. Correct, Stephen? I mean, we can do that.
We have the authority as long as we found that the commission found that it wouldn't impact public safety. We could wait. We could do that. This would be extending that exception, but we could modify this proposed rule to just keep that exception in place till the next code cycle. Just keep it in place indefinitely, and then 3 years from now, when we adopt the next National Electric Code, we could address it at that point. So we're within our rights to as an agency to do that. I know that it's a topic that's been controversial in the past, and there's been some comments from the air conditioning industry and some other groups. So, you never make everyone happy, but we certainly could do that. I think we proposed it we brought it to you as a 6-month extension of the exception that's already in the code, which is from September of 2026 to March of 2027. But that's just one approach. We could do it any number of ways. I think there's just some competing concerns. I think the NFPA has a concern about electrical safety and then there's also concerns about nuisance tripping, which there's some concern that can also be a danger to health and safety if the air conditioning systems experience outages. During hot months, that could be a real problem. So it's a policy decision. And, we obviously want the board's input on it.
And if I might add, this is Josh Hall, Deputy Chief Electrical Inspector, TDLR. To give y'all the full background of this code requirement, I'm only 30, so I've only been in the trade using the code since 2011. That was my code cycle. So everything I've known is arc fault, ground fault, tamper resistant, safety, whatever. And when Larry and I went to Nevada last year for the code voting, for this update, whether to amend it out again or not, it was really interesting to me, and the whole conception I had and perception I had on GFCI protection really changed because it was really the manufacturers that were really fighting for this requirement. I'm all about life safety, and I hate to amend stuff out of the code, especially the advances life safety, but I'm right in the middle on it because the manufacturers have fought so hard for it. They've even called Larry and I randomly from other states as a manufacturer's rep, trying to get us to go in line with it and get it in the code in Texas so that their products can sell. So you know, I'm sure Larry would support either way y'all wanted to go. I mean, whether we take it out for the whole code cycle or we do the 6-month review, but it's just something really interesting once you study and you see why this stuff is put in the code, and then you're there to see the manufacturers get up and voice and try to fight to get this stuff added in the code. So just wanted to give y'all kind of the background on what's going on now with it.
Would this require a motion and a second?
Right. Yeah, motion one way or the other. You can move to approve it as it's written. You can move to approve it with a change. You know, however you want to do it. But yeah, we need a motion and a second.
So Mark, we need this, Troy. I motion we extend this out to the next code cycle.
Thank you, Troy. Do we have a second?
Marcus
That's
Lundgren.
Mark Henderson, I second.
Okay, Alex, you want to?
Yes, may I have the, who was the motion and who seconded, please?
Motion, Troy Webb.
Second, Mark Henderson.
Thank you. All right. Okay, Marcus Lundergreen,
Aye.
Mark Henderson,
Aye.
Troy Webb,
Aye.
Christopher Bass,
Aye.
Lydell Toy,
Aye.
Kim Allen,
Aye.
and presiding officer Mark Matheny.
Aye.
Okay, the motion to extend this to the next code cycle has passed, sir.
All right, and Steve Leary, Assistant General Counsel, just by way of background, what would happen is we'll contact the governor's office to notify them that we're continuing to propose this with that change. And then if they give us the green light to publish, we'll go ahead and publish it in the Texas Register. If they have concerns, it's possible we might have to come back to consider it. But assuming we get the green light from the governor's office, then we'll go ahead and propose it. And then there'll be a subsequent meeting to consider the public comment that comes in.
Liddell Toy. Larry, when did you said that they had a plan for those HFG FCIs? How long is it going to take for them to put those out onto the market, did they say?
So they're in production right now. Larry Reichel, Chief Electrical Inspector. Liddell, they're in production right now. And under a disclosure agreement with one of the electrical manufacturers that we've been discussing with, they have a non-disclosure agreement on the AC manufacturers that they're working with for the compatibility of the two. And but he did state that there was many, if not most, of all the main big manufacturers of air conditioning equipment. So that's where we're at right now. It is available. I believe I'd have to check on that, Liddell. I think it is available, but not widely available like what we would have to have in the state of Texas. I mean, and we're discussing this with manufacturers that are up north. You know, they don't have near the condensing units and ACs like we have here in Texas.
So you think by the next code cycle they might have it in production, or?
I think that's what, at first, that's what we were going to do, was look at it at 6 months to see what the availability of it was from different electrical manufacturing companies, you know, because right now we've been discussing this with just one of the electrical manufacturers, but we wanted to see, you know, you've got several of the manufacturers that eventually they will come out with this HFGFCI. And that's kind of what Josh and I were looking at, and Stephen and I all agreed, hey, we'll do this on a 6-month basis for review. But if y'all want to go the whole code, I'm perfectly fine with that. And let them, you know, hash it out and get this thing compatible 100%, and make sure that, you know, if you don't need a full new condensing unit, that the HFGFCI will be compatible with those other older products.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Thank you, Larry.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
And now we'll get to the presentation by the Texas State Technical College on proposed new qualification pathway for journeyman electricians. I've got a list of people that want to speak. The first one on the list is Darren Timmons. I don't know if it needs to be in any particular order.
We do have an order if you don't mind. This is Kendall Creel.
That'd be fine.
Okay, I'll get us kicked off. And Alex, do you have the presentation that you could pull up?
Yes, I do. One second.
Thank you. Great, thank you. Thank you, Presiding Officer Matheny and advisory board members for allowing us to be here today. My name is Kendall Creo. I'm the senior advisor to the chancellor at Texas State Technical College. On the call with me, we have Carla Flanagan, our associate vice chancellor of instructional alignment and innovation. We have Darren Timmons, the director of alignment for electrical construction. And then we have Ashley Yezak, the dean of power and construction at TSTC. Today, we just want to come talk to you about who we are, what we do, what our current electrical program looks like, what our future proposed current electrical program could look like, and then why now is really important. And so once Alex gets this pulled up, we'll walk you through our PowerPoint presentation. Next slide, please. So today we just wanted to go over a little bit about who TSTC is. This is our education code. When we were established in 1965, this is what the legislature put in the education code. Currently, we have 11 campuses across the state of Texas, stretching from Sweetwater out in West Texas, Marshall out in East Texas, all the way down to Harlingen down in the valley. So we do have a true statewide presence with our campus locations. A couple of things I want to highlight in our code, and if you've heard our chancellor speak at the legislature, this is one of the things that he consistently goes back to. It's truly our mission statement. And the first thing I want to point out is we are called to offer courses of study in technical vocational education for which there's demand within the state of Texas. And when we talk about demand, we're a little bit different than most colleges across the state. Our demand comes from industry. It comes from the need of our employer partners in the state of Texas. And so as you look at our program mix within TSTC, you can see over the years, it's shifted. I think I've been at TSTC since 2019. Right before coming here, I think we closed somewhere close to 20 programs because the demand from a student standpoint may have been really high, but the labor market and the job data was telling us demand from industry was not as high. So, and Carla will talk about our program mix here in a minute, but that's really key for us to stay market driven and ensuring we're engaging with our employer partners to make sure that we're teaching and training our students on what is coming to Texas. The second thing I want to talk about is the economic development efforts to improve the competitiveness of Texas business and industry. This one is really important for us and something we've really been leaning into. As you know, we've won the Governor's Cup now for 13 straight years. I saw a stat yesterday that in 2025, Texas gained the most amount of jobs from any other state in the United States. We gained 132,500 jobs last year. on top of the stats that Commissioner Esparza talked about with the growth in the electrical field, and then Chairman Matheny also mentioned the need for skilled workers in Texas. We have really been positioning ourselves to make sure that we are there providing the workforce needs for attracting new business to Texas. The third thing I want to point out is we are called to be in close collaboration with business, industry, government agencies, and communities to create a system that should facilitate and deliver an articulated and responsive technical education system. And I think that's really important for us. I've talked about our deep connection with business and industry. We also are very connected with the communities that we serve. So that way we can tailor our programming to the regional needs that, because as you all know, there's a different need out in West Texas versus East Texas versus the Valley. And so we're really plugged in with our communities that we that we are involved in, but really the other state agencies that we work with clearly with you all. We're working with the Texas Workforce Commission. So we are trying to align ourselves to make sure we are creating that ecosystem of technical education. And being the only statewide technical training provider here in Texas, that is really important to us, and to make sure that we're always at the table, understanding where the demand's coming from. And that really is in response to our funding model. And as a state agency, we are funded, 60% of our funding comes from the state of Texas. That is based off of not only educating our students, but also making sure that they get jobs and great paying jobs. And so we are really, really hyper focused on looking at demand and what's coming to the state because of the way that we're funded by the state. It really holds us accountable to our industry partners and really the taxpayers that we get our funding from. And so with that, I just wanted to give you an overview of TSTC. You may all be familiar with TSTC, but that's really the lens at which our executive leadership team looks at how we do programming, and then who we serve and how we serve our stakeholders. And now I'm going to turn it over to Carla, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about the program mix and what we do at TSTC.
Good morning, presiding officer, board members, and TAR staff. I just wanted to echo Kendall's gratitude and thank you all so much for inviting us here today. I'm Carla Flanagan, Associate Vice Chancellor at TSTC, and I have the honor of working closely with the deans and program directors in a division known as Instructional Alignment and Innovation. Under instructional alignment innovation, we are really focused on product quality and innovation. So if you can turn it to the next slide. So at TSTC, we have two products in order for us to fulfill our commitment to Texas and our Texas industry. We have our graduates, right? We have to produce great graduates that meet the expectations of industry, but also we have our products internally, which is our curriculum and our content. So instructional alignment and innovation is focused on that content and to ensure that it really meets the standards of industry and their expectations. So in this slide, I just wanted to showcase the depth of expertise that TSTC offers within technical training. We have 42 technical areas, and within these technical areas, we actually have different specializations. So somebody mentioned advanced manufacturing. Within advanced manufacturing, we have industrial maintenance, which has some electrical areas in it. We have automation and robotics, and we have semiconductor. Within electrical training, we have electrical construction and solar energy. So somebody also mentioned solar energy earlier. Just to let you know, we have subject matter experts that are from industry that have come to us from industry to lead us in ensuring that these products are meeting the quality and expectations that our industry partners are looking for. And so, as I mentioned, we are really committed to fulfilling what our industry partners are looking for. And we do that through alignment with expectations we do that through alignment with our industry expectations. So it's constant collaboration. It's an organic relationship. It's constant communication. So we do have advisory boards for every single one of our technical areas, but our communication with industry doesn't stop there. We actually have a constant communication. We go out and visit. Instructional alignment visits plants quite often, especially if it's something new and something that that's emerging in Texas. We'll go out and meet with several industry partners, including employers and industry representation, because those are two distinct groups, and we visit the communities that our industry partners are going to be conducting business in. And so that way we have a good understanding of what our industry partner and that industry is looking for before we are able to develop a quality product. And last but not least, before I introduce our subject matter expert for electrical training, I just wanted to mention that not only are we focused with aligning with industry, but we're also focused in ensuring the scalability of our programs. So as Kendall mentioned, we have 11 campuses at TSCC, and every single one of those campuses located in different communities have their different community preferences and different community partners. So with that, we're able to develop programs that are scalable across the state, but flexible enough to be able to meet the needs of the individual communities. So I'll use advanced manufacturing because it's an easier example. We have an advanced manufacturing center on every single campus at TSCC. But if you go to the Williamson County campus, for example, their area has more semiconductors than it does other type of manufacturing plants. So they have a specialization in semiconductor. If you go to Harlingen, they have a Toyota plant, and so they have industrial maintenance. So we not only address the statewide need, but we also try to focus on the needs of our community individually. So with that said, I would like to introduce to you our subject matter expert and Director of Alignment for Electrical Training, Darren Timmons.
Thanks, Carla, so much. Yes, my name is Darren Timmons. I'm the Director of Alignment of our Electrical Construction Program. And I just wanted to briefly kind of fill those in on what we do in our program, our expectations, our manners. And as a whole, our primary focus is to introduce and bring these students in and introduce them to all facets of the electrical construction. We focus on residential, commercial, and industrial. One of the first things that our program we also stress is our attendance and accountability, because in the industrial field, or all the fields out in the industry, that is first and foremost, along with our safety. If you go to the next slide, please, Alex. Our safety is always number one. Each course has an area of safety, kind of relating to your residential hazards, commercial, industrial, specific ones, but we also reach into just the job site safety also, not just the electrical hazards. One of our courses in our programs, the students attend an OSHA course in construction industry, and upon completion of that course, they receive their OSHA 30 card, because that's across the board, especially in this electrical field. Safety always has to be number one. Our program includes some basic theory courses just to bring the student into the general understanding of the electricity, what we're doing, how it works. We have codes and calculations in there, the NEC codes. We use that heavily in the classroom part to introduce them to the code book and how to use it, because again, these are day one. Many of them are day one. So how to use that as a tool, and understand how to go through the code book. We focus on the most common practices, and we combine the classroom with our lab areas and projects going on campus, so they do not just sit in a classroom, watch a video, and try to calculate and do equations that way. We take them out into the field to help them understand strapping, bends, depths, width, and such things, so that they truly comprehend and become a more productive student in the field by understanding that. And it moves them a little farther down the line in getting prepped for their exams, which will be coming in the future. We work them in, we have working labs. We have residential, commercial, and industrial labs set up in the programs. of we try to create as much as we can an actual working environment. Obviously, the residential is all wood framing, metal framing in our commercial. We have motors, starters, and get into. We kind of just started to the beginning of the industrial area, but we introduced them to the big benders and threaders, different types of conduits, things along that way, the basics of that. Their instructions in the classroom, our instructors, we teach them to learn their blueprints and introduce them to field language. Some of their tasks and activities, we'll give them the verbal instructions. And then the next day they may come in and we have the drawing on the board and force them to learn to read the blueprint to see what we're requesting of them and to complete their task to broaden their experience for out in the field. They finish up their program with a co-op. They're still a student at TSTC, but they go out and work full-time with an electrical contractor of their choice that we approve. If it meets our standards and what we're wanting to get, they're welcome to go and choose where they work for. On graduation, there's no obligation to keep them, but that allows them to see and kind of experience what is coming. But it also has great value to us because we get feedback constantly from industry partners and even from the students. Hey, this was something new, or we didn't cover this, to help us fill in our deficiencies and gaps, all with the main goal to put the best product out there for all facets of industry, all of our industry partners, industry across the state, from the mom and pop just wiring houses all the way up to, like Carla mentioned, some of the newest industrial things going on. Our existing program has just seen continued growth in enrollment. And as Carla mentioned, we're going to be expanding this fall to Fort Bend, Harlingen, and Marshall, just to support the entire electrical field across the state. Next slide, Alex. We track stuff through career services and through other members of our team. We strive, as Kendall pointed out, we're driven from success in the field. That's how we get our funding. That's why we want our students to go to work. And we try to use the training to get them up in some of the most successful careers there are. These numbers here are average from 2021 to 2025. We've maintained about a 90% placement rate with a starting average of around $55,000. Yes, the latter year or two has improved a little, obviously, with just the new industries coming in and the rapid just supply and demand, the growth. So our career services team does a great job with working with industry and getting our students into the most lucrative fields and just to support the entire electrical field across the state. Next slide. But with all of our success, it's obvious everybody here just about today has mentioned or recognizes the need for more. So as a program director visiting with our industry, I visited through our leadership. We've taken it up, visited with many on this call as to what else can we do. So we're looking at bringing in an associate's degree plan into our electrical construction. It gives us more time with the students and just try to put out a more qualified and more students overall by expanding through the campuses. The ones we mentioned we're going to in the fall. The others, I feel, with the success we're seeing and hope to strive for, we'll be on all of them very soon. But the intention of the AAS, what that'll allow us to do is we'll increase and have more hands-on experience. We're going to implement several practical different style courses where that is just fully work created by us as an institution based on what's happening where. That allows us the quick flexibility to change our curriculum, our activities as the industry changes. And as Kendall and Carla mentioned, the difference that's needs between East Texas, West Texas, Central, North, and South Texas, those particular classes will really allow us to get deeper and more advanced into all areas of it. We also from our safety portion, that'll let us have more time to get into some of the specialty, more than just your hazardous locations. Instead of just your common everyday work site, commercial building or residential dwelling, it gets us into, your confined spaces, specialized, the new equipment coming out in industry, our low voltage lighting controls. We're constantly asking our industry. I have suppliers on our advisory board for that reason. Hey, what's coming out next? What's new, just to keep us ahead, so that our students are up to date with what's going on right now today. The other big thing we want to bring into the AAS award is an elevated level of codes and calculations, get more in depth with both of those, and implement some prep type classes leading to the journeyman and the exams, to try to marry the field experience with the classroom book knowledge that's required to pass these journeyman tests and stuff that come up to the whole goal is just to increase the qualified electrical field across the state, top to bottom. And we have many current pathways and methods and training programs out there, and they show success. They are successful, but yet we're still seeing, as an industry, we need more. So that is our goal, is to look and help the entire electrical construction business across the state in any way possible, to provide them with a more qualified, experienced workforce. And with that, I'll turn it over to the Dean, Ashley Yezik.
All right, Mr. Timmons, thank you. First, let me introduce myself again. My name is Ashley Yezik. I am the Dean of the Power and Construction Trades. I want to start with saying thank you to the chairman and the advisory board members for allowing us here with you this morning. So next slide, please, Alex. As we look across the college, our college, TSTC, I'll start with the presentations you've seen so far. You've learned about our mission. You've learned about our different clusters. You've heard from one of our directors of alignment as far as content and what's happening behind the scenes in those classrooms and in their trainings. So now I want to dig a little bit deeper and explain who we are by means of what TSTC is tasked with by the state, and that is to identify the gaps, the deficiencies, and needs as related to Texas industry. So that said, as a college, we do not only identify these hurdles, issues, problems, what have you, but we strive to create solutions and help solve issues that are seen. So if you look at the problems, I think many of us here, you've heard stated earlier this morning about the industry growth and how fast-paced it is for both in the industrial and commercial settings. We've learned how the retirement gaps are affecting who we have working for us and the necessary backfill that's going to be required to help alleviate those shortages, numbers-wise, as well as shortages in Texas in their skilled workers. And so when we're looking at these hurdles, really the college, what we're looking to do, a solution we're looking to help provide is to create a standards aligned pathway to licensure. And we're going to do that through we propose to do that through a formalized training that's going to help build those skills, build that labor knowledge, instill that quality in the graduates. So as Mr. Crillo mentioned earlier, it's somewhat of an ecosystem, because as a college that's supporting the Texas workforce, we look to build a training that is not just what TSTC feels necessary, but through our advisory committees and communications with industry, we're going to align that with both TDLR expectations as well as that industry input as far as what they see happening. So this training, how we look forward to this training is we want to help establish a pool of dedicated applicants that are actually seeking advancements throughout that licensure way. So as you begin as an apprentice and you make your way up to master, we just want to ensure that we are helping Texas get qualified individuals who really want to see that advancement and make that climb so that they can support that next level to industry. So again, that said, with TSTC, we just want to help create that backbone, that structured curriculum that could not only be with TSTC but others. But we just want to let you know our thoughts there. So at this time, I guess I would open us up to any questions or comments, concerns, anything that you've heard, need to hear a little bit more from us about. I'll open the floor for that.
Yeah, Kit Bass. So I was looking at the, I guess what y'all are looking at, the 2-year associate's degree for electrical. Is that right? Is that correct? Y'all are looking at a 2-year associate's degree?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so after that 2 years, I see in there that in the 4th semester, there's a journeyman exam prep. I'm just curious how that's going to work with the amount of hours of on-the-job training that you got to have to be able to take the license test. In that, is that prepping them in that truly in that second year, or is this 2 years stretched out over a longer period than 2 years?
Darren, do you want to take that?
Yeah, it is these prep courses are I'm really good. That is what there is to prep them for those, but it's part of just our core of the 2-year program. Just to again try to let the students I never want them to try to memorize the code and such like that, and that's why we just try to advance them in understanding how to use that code book and go and apply it in the field. We use the lab activities in our codes classes, and then in reverse in our working labs, everything it's reiterated again, just in an attempt to when they get to that point, when they get ready to take that journeyman exam, familiarize them with that, to get them more how to understand a little bit of the language that the code is written in and how to apply it to their field activities once they get out to y'all, once they get out to industry, to again just to try to improve the success rate of passing that journeyman exam.
And this is Courtney Arbor. I can jump in on that also. That's something you heard Ford Strawn talk a little bit ago about the fail rate, the pass rate, and where we're seeing some issues, and that we're taking a closer look at that. We would be interested also in discussing presenting that, allowing that exam to be offered earlier in the process so that students can take it earlier, and then not the license be granted with fewer hours, but that exam could potentially be moved up when the coursework is fresher on their minds. So I wanted to jump in and say that's something that the agency's been talking about also.
Kit Bass again. So you're saying that y'all are discussing, Courtney, that possibly after 2 years that y'all would be looking at offering the state test. Is that it for the journeyman test or residential, or which license are we talking about?
In the example I'm talking about, we weren't talking about residential. It would be like in a program like this, if there were 2 years of training that, and Larry or Josh, you're welcome to join me in this conversation. I think we're open to recognizing what challenges we face in getting enough people out there and maintaining rigor. We're interested in moving it up for different programs that would be able to do that so that students could take it sooner. And so, yeah, the 2-year mark is kind of what we were talking about, if that would be the course, if the coursework could be completed in 2 years.
Okay.
We can maintain the licensing scores for 5 years. So that would give anyone who is working toward a journey worker time to complete their on-the-job training and then come back for licensure.
Interesting. Okay.
And Josh Hall, TDLR, just to put it in simple terms, Mr. Bass. So what has been talked about heavily is they go to this course that's approved. And once it's completed in those 2 years, and they do get to sit for their exam, but then again, they still have to go work for an electrical contractor for, you know, the remaining hours and hit 8,000 hours before their license is issued. It's just, you know, letting them take the test earlier, whether they've been giving book knowledge, code knowledge, all the knowledge that they're gaining in the class, so that they can go ahead and take the exam, and then they still have to go work those 8,000 hours to get their license.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just this is Kit Bass again. I was going through each semester topics of what all they were going to be offering. So I was just curious how that was going to work.
That's Courtney Arbor. That's why I wanted to speak up, so that you know that it's something that we're looking at also as a strategy to help students get the exam sooner.
And
And
I
this
guess
is
if y'all go that route, I'm sorry, this is Kit Bass again. If y'all go that route, then that's going to be not just the ones that go through this 2-year. That's just for anyone who's got the education, and if they're ready to take the test sooner, then they'll be able to.
Yeah.
So
We would be looking at a number of course hours that makes you eligible to take the exam.
Like if you're in a registered apprenticeship program and you're so far along in it, you'll be able to take the test as well.
It's one of the things we're considering.
I understood.
Yes.
This is Kendall Creo with TSTC, and one of the things we wanted to offer is to invite y'all to our Waco campus to sit down with our subject matter experts to review the curriculum, the content, have input, and then also look at our lab spaces and how we go about our training programs. I think if you've never been on a campus, it's always eye-opening to see the way we do formal training versus some of our peers across the 2-year sector. So I would like to extend that invite to have y'all out, and we can set that up, as soon as possible.
This is
So,
Chairman
Troy, you're-
Matheny. And that was going to be my question, Kendall. So you'd be receptive, and I think Courtney, I'm not sure where you're at with this, that the advisory board would either as a whole or as a task force get together with TSTC and work on some of these issues or have discussions with them, see their facility, just all of the above. Is that correct?
That is correct. When you are ready, a group of you or all of you can work with us, and we'll schedule an advice. We'll need to make it a public meeting, right? If there's a quorum, but we'd love to help coordinate that meeting, and TSTC offered to host you, and we can dig into the curricula and talk a little bit more about the different things we're thinking of, get your input specifically on the program they're talking about. So
Yeah, I
yeah, a
think that'd
meeting
be-
would be great.
I think that'd be most important and much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay. I'll be in touch with you, or Alex will.
So Troy, so
So I
if this
guess,
meets- on real quick,
I'm
so
sorry.
if this meets the apprenticeship program, can y'all offer this at night online? Because all my workers are travelers, and they're not going to be within distance of your school.
So I just want to clarify, our program is a 2-year program, but we're a flipped classroom institution. So a majority of our courses are going to be offered in the labs because they're going to be hands-on training. So it's not like a typical apprenticeship program. I came from a different institution that we had one where we are just doing the actual lecture hours alone, the didactic portion. We're actually going to have a lot of hands-on training. And that's why we wanted you to come to our campus because TSCC is just so different in the way that we conduct training overall. And the flipped classroom model will really demonstrate how much industry hands-on experience our students actually are exposed to at TSTC.
Right. So Carla, this is Troy. So yeah, I totally understand that and appreciate everything you do. But you asked what is the best way to help the industry, right? So now you can really service that community right there when these guys travel all across the state and they're working, right? But they need to be in that apprenticeship program. That's what helps out tremendously.
Right.
And it can open the door to a great and wider audience.
And we understand that this program is going to be unique than all of our other programs because there are existing programs. And so we wanted to work in collaboration when establishing the content of this specific program. Like I said, we have our own subject matter experts, but we believe in collaborating with industry itself, the industry representation. And so one of our ideas that we could possibly explore more when coming on campus is how can we collaborate with existing apprenticeship programs so that our content delivery is similar, if not the same? And how can we create that framework for the electrical industry?
Okay, so Troy again. So how do y'all dictate where to set up a school at? How do you know what city to go to set up a school that you're going to get the most enrollment in? Because I'll tell you, like right now, probably got 2,000 guys that are going to be up in Amarillo. So compared to Waco, how do you make the calls where to go?
This is Kendall Creo with TSCC. We only have authorization from the legislature. So it takes a bill to be passed for us to get authority to go to any other location. So in 2023, we were granted authority to go to 3 new communities. We actually used to have a campus in Amarillo. So we may have some flexibility to go to Potter County, but we're as it currently stands, we are restricted by legislation for the counties in which we can operate.
Hey, thanks, Kendall. I appreciate it.
You bet.
But again, once we create the framework, that's the purpose of this, is creating a framework where maybe other areas can take that same framework.
Yeah, if I could just jump in. Jeff Kopus, Government Relations, TDLR. I've been working with Kendall and Darren and some of these folks to kind of get some of these meetings together, get some of these folks together. The idea was that this could be replicated at other places, not just TSTC. This would be a statewide model. And so any, community college, local college, school could adopt this. They'd have to get approved by TDLR like we do with other programs. But if they adopt this curriculum and we say this is equivalent to this program, they're good to go. So it could be replicated across the state. Thanks.
Stephen Leary, Assistant General Counsel. I just wanted to mention that one thing that we've looked into, with staff, would be possible rulemaking that will utilize our alternative qualification powers under Chapter 51 to credit some of the hours in a program like this toward the 8,000 hours of on-the-job training that's required under Occupation Code 1305-155. So we are early discussions about that. That's something that's being explored. My understanding is that section requires 8,000 hours of documented on-the-job training as under the supervision of a master electrician. Currently, lab hours in training programs are credited towards that because the lab is supervised by a master electrician. But because this program might be unique in the way classroom and lab is integrated and things like that, the intensity of the program, we're looking at a few different possibilities having to do with what parts of this program or this type of program would count toward the 8,000 hours. And then we've also had discussions about when someone would be eligible to take the exam. So there's really 2 parts to that that are kind of being talked about that we might, once we further refine that, we might bring that before the board in a subsequent meeting. But it is something that's being talked about that is sort of related to this.
So it's Mark Henderson. So to be clear, if I understood what you just said, you're talking about part or all of the 2,000 hours being considered as OJT?
That's something that's being talked about that would require, if not a statute change, it would definitely require rulemaking. It's something we are looking into. I think that's part of what this presentation was having to do with when they're talking about the alternative pathway or a new pathway for qualification. So that's one angle of it. That's one possibility that's kind of being looked into. And it's possible if the board's interested in further exploring that, we could assign it to a work group to further develop, or we could just sort of circle back once we have a better idea of what the rule proposal might be.
Darren Timmons, Director of Alignment with TSTC. And yes, Mr. Henderson, that's part of why I'm a master electrician. I've been in the electrical field for over 40 years, former business owner. And that's, I try to keep that focused in. I design the curriculum with the team. All of our instructors are either journeymen or master electricians. Our content matter experts who help me design our curriculum based on what we gather from industry through our advisory meetings, or is a team of 5 other master electricians that's come from all areas of the workforce. So we have more hands-on lab activities than we do the classroom part. And that's where I would love the input for y'all to come visit and look, to have a better idea, offer suggestions. But I would say 75% of our activities are hands-on working in a simulated, as close as we possibly can field. In this proposal of the AAS, the practicum courses, that has also been discussed, as to reaching out to some of the nonprofit type organizations, just to have the students more exposure to all that they can get their hands on, some of the assisted living things, anything that we can. I know the leadership will have to work out any technicalities with that, but I want the students to get absolutely as much hands-on, true working time as we possibly can. But coming from, I had no education, electrical education, no apprenticeship program. And I remember the first challenges for me, the biggest challenges was just the language barrier between book knowledge and field knowledge. So that is what I've tried to strive in our program. And that's where, like I say, the feedback from the students in the industry, we get a lot of that from our alumni. Man, I didn't understand why we were learning that code book and stuff as much as they quickly learn. That's one of the probably the most valuable tool, equal to the knowledge, when it comes to passing these exams and being a productive in the workforce for anyone in the electrical industry. But I'm Kendall, I hope y'all can get that arranged and come take a look and give us your input and advice on. Like I say, this was an idea I'd been working on for a little while, and as the shortage just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and our industry members, advisory board, they're sharing the same concerns that everyone else here is. So this was just an adventure we wanted to look into in an effort to help Texas as a whole across the state to get a better qualified workforce out there as quick as possible.
Marcus Lenny here. Really, my only concern is, we're looking at ways to try to meet the demands of the workforce that's going to be required over the next few years. But to me, it seems like we're taking a step backwards if we're focusing on a 2-year degree that you need to get prior to going out and working in the field, when we've already got apprenticeship standards in place that allow individuals to start working day one and earn while they're learning and not get racked up in college debt. as an apprenticeship program with apprenticeship licenses. That's been the model of it, is skilled trades are not through the education system. They're handled through skilled trades. That's just my take.
Josh Hall, TDLR, if I can give you all more of a background on why this even started, why this gained traction, is because not last legislative session, but the prior one, is because we had that CTE bill for residential wireman license, where the students could go to the residential wireman course at the college that's TDLR approved, take it, and then they could go sit for their exam. But the biggest problem with that is that when they graduate that course and they go work for an electrical contractor full time, then they start back at 0 hours in the field. So they can't use any of those hours towards journeyman master or anything. And that's been one of the biggest roadblocks in attracting students to get into the electrical trade through that way, is because they can't use any of those hours. So now, they're trying to look at ways to come up with a course that we could use towards the journeyman license. And, people could use it for the residential wireman license stuff if they wanted to, but so that they can get out on the field when they graduate and they don't have to start at 0 hours. And it couldn't just be any apprenticeship program, that they could go take, a random one. It has to be one that follows this course model that's TDLR approved, and they have TDLR's approval and oversight to make sure they're taking the right course.
And hey, if I could just add in again, this is Jeff Kopus, TDLR. TSTC folks, correct me if I'm wrong, but every student in this program has to have an apprentice license to start, right? And they can earn hours outside of school, weekends, summers, evenings, whenever. Is that correct? So they'll have
Yes, Jeff.
hours in addition to,
That's correct.
yeah, in addition to whatever hours potentially could be credited for this program, they would have whatever hours they earned working outside of the program as well. So just want to make that clear.
Presiding Officer Matheny, it's Steve Bruno, Deputy Executive Director, and Mr. Leary, our General Counsel. I wanted to propose an idea. I wonder if a work group of the advisory board might be able to go out and visit and bring back some of these questions and talk about some of the specifics that may need to be addressed in a rule, rather than having to wait for a full advisory board meeting. Is that something we could maybe kind of get going now, with a work group and a visit? And I certainly don't want to cut off any advisory board members who want to attend, because I think, Stephen, if we had a large group, we could just post a meeting there. But I do want to make sure the conversation keeps going and that we get to have that experience and that visit, because I think that'll help really inform the advisory board on some suggested rules.
Stephen Leary, Assistant General Counsel. We could go through a work group, either assign this matter to an existing work group or create a new work group and try to develop a rule package through that work group and present it to the next advisory board meeting. That'll be one way to do it. So I believe there are some standing work groups in this board, but that's up to the presiding officer. The work group assignments, something that can be done in the meeting or outside the meeting. So that would be one path forward.
Chairman Matheny, that is, Mr. Bruno, that is what I would steer towards. And that's exactly what I was thinking, that we'd put together some kind of task force to ask questions, answer questions, and work together. I mean, this thing that's being unrolled is it's a prototype that's still shaping itself and has some adjustments to be made, but it's been funded and it'll happen. It's up to us to help shape the future of our industry. So we need to get with it.
I have one question for Josh for clarification. Wouldn't the IBW program or the IEC program students qualify after 2 years because they're doing classroom, as well as they'll have 2,000 hours of OJT in addition to their classroom, so they'll actually have more time after 2 years or 2,000 hours than what the typical student in your program would have wouldn't they be qualified to sit for that test as well, even though they'd still have to continue their to the 8,000 hours to get their license, of course?
Right. If they weren't in one of these approved programs that following this model, then they wouldn't be eligible to sit for the exam early. They'd still could only sit for the exam at 7,000 hours. But it's something that we could explore, going over all the different apprenticeships and IBEW courses, but no, it would be similar to our residential wireman, where that you had to take the TDLR CTE approved course to be eligible, to count your classroom hours and take the exam early. You'd have to complete that course at TSTC or wherever else is using that model.
But hey, Josh, that's an important point, though. I think part of what we talked about was if the IEC or IBEW course had the same outline as this course, right? Same type of coursework. If it was equivalent to this, right? TDLR could look at that. That's what Ford does in the Education Examination Division. They'll look at any program and say, hey, is this equivalent to this statewide model that's been adopted? Great. If it is, then yes, you could qualify for that. So I just want to clarify.
Yeah, any course out there that meets the minimum of this, of this standard, then any course that meets the minimum of this approved standard.
That's part of why we've been talking about trying to break away from this 7,000 hours, because right now you have to have 7,000 hours to sit for the exam. That's not in statute. That's not in rule, y'all. That's a policy. So there's flexibility on that. And so I think we should take advantage of that flexibility. And this is one way we could do it, is to say, let's separate it out from hours to talk about programs. And of course, the hours will still apply for anybody not in a program. But if you're in a program, that's the incentive really, it's going to kind of get you to the head of the line quicker. So Ford, I think you had your
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Michael Strawn, or Ford Strawn, Director of Education. And you're both right, you and Josh. I mean, we want to look at the opportunities that are out there, whether it's TSTC or IBEW or anything at that point in time. As we've seen earlier in the statistics I put up, the early testing seems to work when this education's fresh on their mind. And so if you have somebody that's completing, a 2-year course, we don't want to have to make them wait, even though they do have their apprenticeship license. Going through that course, if they only have 3,000 hours, we don't want them to have to wait a year, 2 years to sit for that examination. So these opportunities are definitely things that we're looking at and how we incorporate all of that in there. The early testing seems to work. We want these guys to be successful, get in, take their examination, continue their hours afterwards. And as soon as they meet all that criteria, the license issues for them. As soon as they've satisfied all that, they win, we win, and it keeps people from having to retake examinations and frees up my exam spaces for other industries. So it's by all means, it's a win across the board, and it's something we're really looking at deeply.
One of the ways somebody explained this to me, and I like this analogy, is think about a doctor, a medical doctor. They go to college, they get their degree, they have to get an advanced degree, medical degree, right? But they take their medical exams upon graduation. That doesn't mean they're a doctor. They still got to go out in the field for 3, 4, 5, sometimes longer years doing their residency before they actually become an MD. So it's kind of that same concept of taking the exam when you're done with your education, when it's fresh on your mind. You still got to go out and get the experience, finish that up. So I don't know if that's a helpful analogy or not, but it's been helpful to me to think about that way. So thanks, Ford.
Yes, sir.
And real quick, this is Steve Bruno. Ford and Jeff and everyone, I think that we are also talking about an important, I guess I'll call it a security feature, in that if this program's in place and you're in the middle of it and you're working and something happens and you don't complete this and you fall outside the program, then those hours are not gonna follow you, right? We're talking about this being contained within this program.
Michael Strawn, Education Examination Division. Absolutely correct, Steve. Yeah, it's basically this to make you eligible early. What we were looking at or contemplating was completion of that course, but we're not granting. if you did half of the course, you're not getting X amount of hours. The course
Right.
is a standalone. You complete that, it would be a satisfactory kicker for exam eligibility. Now, as everybody's already stated, that does not mean you get a license. It means you're exam eligible at that point in time. Everybody would still have to satisfy the lawful requirements of completing the examination, their hours, and everything else at that point in time.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
I think we're all in agreement. This is Mark Henderson. I think we're all in agreement. We've seen the statistics. Anybody that's involved in an apprentice program, a structured apprentice program, like a Department of Labor recognized program, like the IEC or IBEW or your proposed program, we have a whole lot higher success rate when it comes to passing the test. And I agree that they should be able to pass the test. I wouldn't even mind them taking the test at 2 years, as long as they still have to get their OJT before they can get their license.
Michael Strawn, the Education Examination Division. They absolutely will, based on the talks we've had so far. The intent is not to circumvent or lower hours or anything else. It is to provide a quicker avenue to get people into test. And as you said, Mr. Henderson, we've seen those apprenticeship programs. We've seen that early testing is working for individuals. And we wouldn't want to penalize an individual coming through here, getting their education, and making them wait 2-3 years to take that examination, and then potentially lose some of that book knowledge or anything else, and maybe not have the pass rates that we could achieve for them.
So Troy Webb here. Have we had any luck driving this down to the high school level? That's where I really need to start taking off too, to capture those young guys coming out of school.
Kendall Creel with TSTC. I think this proposed pathway is an opportunity to extend it into the high schools and have a clear pathway from high school into post-secondary education or post-secondary training. I mean, from, as you saw, there's only 2 programs that have been approved by TDLR for the CERT or the residential wireman program. There has not been traction in the high schools. And Darren can speak a little bit better to that. But with this, we have 100+ partnerships with ISDs across the state doing dual credit. And this allows us or opens up the opportunity potentially to do more with our high school partners in this field for sure.
Yeah, that's fantastic here, the dual credit right there. So that makes it a lot easier.
Yes.
Yes, Darren Simmons, Director of Alignment, STC. Troy, that is one of the first things that I was looking forward to was to, again, we're just in the infant stages getting this package put together, but then immediately reaching out to our high schools. It has been the residential wireman path. It does kind of restrict them because of what it takes to get to that cert. But the intention with this is to be able to work with high schools, really anyone interested that could follow along this approved line, but to reach out. Like I say, again, the goal is just to cast a bigger net, initial net, and then bring them in and to a qualified that meets industry standards. Like I say, that's why we value y'all's input so much, and along with our advisory board on all of that. But something that is a win for everyone. Capture a bigger net, but no, definitely looking in the high schools was one of the top deals on my priority and mentioned when we first brought this up.
Thank you, sir.
Kit Bass, is there any other states that you're aware of that have a similar program that they've already piloted, or is this the first test pilot of a 2-year program?
Unless Josh is aware of one, I don't know that we're aware of one. I think what you're hearing from us, though, is willingness to consider alternate approaches. And so if we're the first to do it, we'll be proud to do it. And we want to do it with good guardrails and a thoughtful approach. But I'm not aware of another state that's doing it. But we're always glad to lead in Texas, right?
Josh Hall, TDLR, there's not another state I'm aware of, at least in all my research so far, that has a model like this. There are several states, especially up northeast, like Connecticut, for example, that requires you to have so many hours. I think maybe 620 hours of the course that you have to take, and it has to be through a course that's approved by their state licensing department. And then there's other states that just have a straight up, you have to have classroom hours, whether it be an IBEW, whether it be IEC, whether it be at a college, whatever. But really you see that up a lot in the Northeast, but you don't really see many. I haven't seen any so far that have something like this, a model that accepts, hours in this way. It's just you have to have them no matter what, or you cannot get your license at all.
Right. This is Larry Reichel, Chief Electrical Inspector. To coattail off of what Josh was saying, there are North states that allow for some college education to be considered as on-the-job training up to 2,000 hours, I think is what we found max, right, Josh? That they will allow a certain amount of education hours, but that education hours are over the electrical industry, the code book and stuff like that. They do allow that. So this is kind of like a new view for the state of Texas at 24, 25 years into this. At the end of the day, we all want this person, this individual that comes out of the apprenticeship programs or the TSTC colleges or where, we want them to be qualified electricians, understand, navigate the code book, and also get their experience in the field. That's our whole objective as a whole for all of us, is to get these qualified where Ford's not analyzing exam scores off of someone who did 8,000 hours of just putting underground conduit in the ground. So that's what I had to say. Thank you.
Chairman Matheny here. It's my understanding from sitting in meetings with worldwide investors that want to funnel in up to $100 million into apprenticeship programs, and they're doing it. Some of you have received some of that funding. Their ideal is the prototype is in Texas, and then eventually it would be taken out across the rest of the nation. So I don't think another one exists as far as I understand. That's why we have to do it right.
Darren Timmons with PSTC again. To kind of add on to what Larry is saying there, that is another one of the goals that we're striving to push. Very aware many electrical companies, they kind of focus in one area of the trade, industrial, commercial, residential, and some of the hours may be heavily weighed in one particular facet. That is one of the challenges that I want us to really put forward on the table with our program, is that it is across the board for all all areas of it. And then our practicums, those are the ones we're going to reach out to, like I say, the industry to focus in on more on them. But we want to, as an institution of academics and our trades, we want it to satisfy everyone and not just one main path. So that's been part of the focus in gathering information for the curriculum.
So I feel like at this point, unless there's some other questions, that I will depend on Alex and Courtney to help set up a group, that we can meet with TSTC and help them along and help us understand even further. We could probably go way off into the weeds on this thing, and it's not necessary in this form till we have a few more questions answered and see, how the rest of this is going to be rolled out.
I think that's a great strategy. Alex, you may be about to chime in, but that's where we can really get into it, take the tour and talk more about the details of the curriculum. But I am glad we had a chance to share what we're all kind of thinking. We all have common goals here, and it's just the how that we have to work through and make sure that whatever we do keeps everyone's assurance that it'll be a strong model that produces good, qualified workers. So I've really appreciated everybody's willingness to talk, and I can predict that we're going to be talking pretty regularly, Mr. Matheny, as often as you would like to convene this group. But we'll start working with you very quickly to schedule the meeting in Waco.
Thank you. Is there anything else that needs to be said? If not, I'd like to thank everybody from TSTC for being on this call. It was a great presentation, and we look forward to having more talks.
Thank you so much.
Okay, then we can be close to wrapping this thing up. We have a recommendation for agenda items for the next board meeting. Does anybody have anything? Obviously, this will be one of the topics.
Stephen Leary, Assistant General Counsel. I just wanted to bring up, if you want a work group to meet between now and the next board meeting, you could appoint a work and assign this to the work group. You can do that inside the meeting or outside the meeting. We just want to be sure that there's fewer than a quorum members that are going to be on the work group that want to talk about, help develop the rule package. So want to bring that up.
Thank you. I'm sure we can. Alex, do you normally take volunteers here? Do you want people to contact you, board members?
Well, as presiding officer, you can call for volunteers now, and or even you can just assign, and I can get those in, and then make sure and have that to everyone.
Okay.
Or
Well,
we could also do it after the meeting. But it's up to you and how you wanted to do it.
yeah, I'd take some volunteers now.
Mr. Chairman, Kim Allen, I'll volunteer.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim.
Mark Henderson, I'll volunteer.
Thank you, Mark. How many do we need, Alex?
Generally, we do 4. That's the most we can get to make sure that we don't have a quorum, which is 5 or more.
So that's including myself.
Yeah. Actually, I was just since work group assignments are not on the agenda.
Gotcha.
I was just reminded of that. So again, we can do that at another time.
After the meeting.
But I will definitely keep these names for make it official for later.
Okay.
So
Then
sorry.
that's all right. Then we'll move on to if there was any agenda items for the next meeting. I believe you can always email Alex on items up to a certain time.
Yes, if say something comes up at lunch later on today, definitely you can email me at any time, and I will get that in queue and added for the next agenda for the next meeting.
Then the next item was, do we have an idea of when the next board meeting would be, and where would it be, virtual, or do we have any idea?
At this point, we don't have any scheduled. Again, we are usually doing virtual. However, however you wanted to do it. Courtney, did you?
I was going to Courtney Arbor, I would recommend that we have your next meeting as soon as you'd like in Waco. Well, I should ask Kendall this question. Maybe we need an informal but public meeting instead of a WebEx meeting. I may have just misstepped. I'm sorry, TSTC friends. We'll schedule the meeting for you in Waco, and then we'll work with you on the next board meeting as well. If you'd like to do them both of them in the next 2 or 3 months, we can accommodate that.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll work with you on dates for both them.
Okay. Was there anything else before we go to adjournment?
Kim Allen, Courtney, I'm gonna be gone like the 3rd week. I'm not sorry, like March the 3rd to we'll be back to like March the 19th. So if you schedule anything except then, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. We will do our very best. Thank you for letting us know.
Okay, anybody else? Well, then we're going to adjourn this meeting at 12:44. And thank you, everyone. This was very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.